Our first presentation this morning is on the management of change. Joining me on stage now for this panel are Mr. Justin Murray with IRR and Ryan Brosh from Industrial Project Innovation. So you gentlemen can come up and have a seat. And then Steve Engel from Jacobs and Scott Evans, yeah. Come on up, Scott. And these are our panelists this morning. I'm not seeing, who am I missing here? Steve. Steve here yet? Oh, he'll be here in a minute, hopefully. You want to go check on Steve Engel? Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, wherever you want to sit. No, I'm going to stand most of the time, I think. But Steve can sit there, wherever you want to sit. All right, so we're going to be talking about the management of change, safety, speed, and risk management. And you can see the list of panelists there. Aaron Schumacher from MC Dean was unable to make it. You know, we had a lot of cancellations with weather and work issues, so Aaron was not able to join us. But Steve, thanks for filling in. And Steve Evans is here, and we'll let them introduce themselves here in a minute. But all right, well, while we're waiting on Steve Engel, we'll go ahead and do some introductions. So Ryan, why don't we start with you? Introduce yourself, who you're with, and a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Brosh. I'm with Industrial Project Innovation, a construction management company. I'm focused on business development, marketing, and technology, and we call that business intelligence. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Steve?
Good morning. My name is Scott Evans. I'm a ready mix rep for Cimex USA, but I'm here on my own personal initiative under Scott Evans Speaks, and essentially I'm a suicide survivor within the industry, and the statistics are staggering. So in the last 10 years in the field, I've designed some platforms to help bridge the gaps between clinical protection and peer-to-peer field protection. I believe people want a way up and not a way out.
I'm Justin Murray with Industrial Reliability and Repair. We're based out of Chillicothe, Ohio. That's where our first shop was at, and then we also have two other locations in Ohio and Cincinnati. It's an acquisition of our company, Han Horse Services. They've been around since 1876. We're the fourth owners, and they do we do pressure vessel repairs, boiler repairs, a lot of piping, and we have U-stamp, S-stamp, and R-stamp, so we also fabricate pressure vessels. We also have expanded that out into an HVAC division in Cincinnati, doing commercial industrial HVAC, and that's expanding with a lot of great new customers in the past couple of years. We have the contract for the Cincinnati Reds Stadium, Cincinnati Bengals Stadium, and many others. We're proud of that. And we have a shop in Leland, North Carolina. It's our largest shop, and we do machine shop, CNC, fabrication, equipment rebuilds there. And then we have our regional group, which is we call our U.S. operations, and we work in 32 states doing turnaround, shutdowns, and capital projects. And right now we're in, I don't know, about 6 states working. And one of the cornerstones of our company is, which I'll talk about a little later, is what we call active management, and safety quality control has to do with that, where you're not building a program and then sitting in an office waiting for something to go wrong. You're involved in it from the beginning to the end of the whole job, through the bidding process, the planning process, execution, follow-up. And we think it's cutting edge, and I think it's part of why Herb wanted me to be here to talk about it.
All right, thanks, Justin. Steve?
Yeah, good morning. We're talking about change. I had to change rooms. It's in the wrong place. Good morning. My name is Steve Engel. I'm the Vice President of Construction for Jacobs Engineering. We're full-service EPCM CQV provider for top-tier pharmaceutical life science projects all around the world. So glad to be here.
Good to have you here. We're going to do a quick safety moment this morning, and I kind of like to ad-lib these things, so I'm going to ask my co-worker and good friend C.J. Bessalon. C.J., you have something you can share with us this morning for a safety moment? You're always prepared. Well, let's give him a mic here. Come on up and stand up here. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Herb. Well, I tell you, everybody's abuzz about the weather, so that's an obvious one to go with, and it's timely, it's meaningful, because not only is slip, trips, and falls, same level falls on the job site, a particular hazard this time of year. The weather has proven it can happen anywhere. It's not just in the northern tier states. And at Hashtag Safety, we employ about 300 plus safety professionals on projects all across the country. And unfortunately, for the last couple of years, we've had full-time safety professionals on projects that have suffered slip injuries, on the project. So not a craft worker, not somebody carrying a heavy load, but just traversing the job site, in and out of the parking lot, in the steps of the job site trailer. It could be anywhere. But likewise, it happens off the job too. So, as everybody knows, safety is 24/7. It's not just when you walk in the gate at the project. And I've known a couple of safety professionals throughout my career that had suffered slip and fall injuries around the house, in the parking lot, going to the grocery store on the weekend. So it's not just on the job site, and the root causes can be many, as far as carrying something, being in a hurry and carrying something, carrying the groceries in, from the garage into the house, and you hit a slippery spot. So this time of year. I live in Dallas now, and I tell my wife and my kids all the time that, hey, just getting in and out of the car, be thoughtful, walk like a penguin. They say, don't carry a child on your hip and a bag of groceries on the other side. So let's all be thinking. Yesterday I looked out the window here, and there was ice right outside the door of this particular building here in Orlando. So keep your head on a swivel. Always be thoughtful about same level slips and trips and falls on icy and slippery walkways.
Thank you, CJ. Appreciate it. I got in here Sunday around noontime, and the fountain out there that was just talking about, some of you saw it, right? It was frozen. But I was also watching two workers and the one lady that was out there that were trying to get photos of the ice on the fountain. They work here at the Renaissance. She slipped and fell. So who would think you'd need slips, trips, and falls, right, for ice in Orlando, Florida, but it happened. All right, there's a slide deck in the app that you'll be able to download or upload so that you can have it in the future. So I'm just going to move through these several slides here. This is just some research that we've done. Structured process to identify and control risk from change, prevent safety degradation under pressure, ensures communication, documentation, and accountability. The next one, industry challenges. Let me make this a little larger for me. And then why this matters. Again, all this is going to be in your app, because I want to get to the meat of the questions with our panelists this morning. We have some esteemed panelists with us, and we want to learn from them. Core question, CURT members' current focus areas, modern MOC triggers, effective elements, strategy for success is next. CURT case examples, call to action, and then we get into field construction, scheduled compression options, risk of adding more people, risk of extending shifts, adding more shifts or work days, mitigation actions required, and that's a part 2 to that. And then we have discussion and Q&A, which is where we're at. So we're going to be talking to our panelists this morning about management of change today in the construction industry. What are the biggest gaps? What do you need from owners and contractors? So question number 1, and I'll pose that to Justin down on the end. Personal protective equipment. How are owners and contractors ensuring the use of better and safer PPE in our industry, such as climbing helmets and ways of working and wearable technologies, and how are they built into the bids to ensure a safer project?
Okay, so I made some notes on that.
All right, good.
I'm going to read them, put on my glasses. So we were, this applies to AI too. We were talking at breakfast of,
Can you hold that up a little?
can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
We were talking at breakfast about the new technologies coming up, and I was relating that I started flying an airplane in 1978, got my license, and then I quit after the late 80s, and then I've just started up 2 years ago, and I got an airplane, and I did in the old Cessna 172. It's got a G1000, it's got WAS, AWAS, all these different technologies that are blowing my mind. And I got a little scared of it, but then I started thinking, okay, I'm still flying an airplane, but I need to embrace the new technology. And so I accepted it, and instead of getting apprehensive, I'm learning it, and it's exciting. And it's the same thing with the new things in the world of safety, whether it's processes we do, all the way from the beginning of when I started industry, they had the right to know law, then BBS came along, and there's been all these different innovations, and they're all good. You need to embrace them. And the new technologies with computers, AI, but also the PPE. And the one that I wanted to emphasize today is really, in my mind, important is gloves. And the technology, it's not just your grandfather's leather gloves anymore. There's so many different styles for the type of work you're doing, the cut proof, the abrasion proof, and it can be like the avionics in an airplane. It can be overwhelming, but you need to look at it, embrace it, and look at all the different types of jobs that you're involved with your craft. A millwright needs something that's articulating. Articulate small Allen head screws. Welders need a certain type. I mean, there's so many choices. It can be overwhelming, but it's really good stuff if you take the time to look at it. So that's an example of that. And relative to being the safety department, your shared services group, they need to have those. They need to be in the process of getting those things in the bid so that you can pay for the gloves or the head protection or those types of things. And then the other thing is engineered out construction or maintenance. And a good example is like the high torque wrench. You're taking yourself with a hydraulic wrench and you're taking yourself out of the line of fire when you're using on something that's a very high torque bolt, like a turbine bolt or something like that. So those are just some thoughts of embracing the technologies that are out there, that is PPE or tools that allow you to be safer.
All right, thanks, Justin. Scott, you have anything to add to that? PPE?
Yes, sir. So being more from the field side of it, I remember Ford stating that if he had listened to people, he would have created a faster horse. So there's a lot of tools, a lot of technologies, a lot of apps, a lot of top-down type items for field people to use, and pinch points, shoot, carrying, pre-post ops, slips, trips, and falls. All those things are critical. But what I've seen in the field, and the statistics are staggering, is PPE, we do a great job on physical safety. But I've kind of created a framework around invisible PPE. And that's more so if we have a life jacket but no one wears it, or they don't think it's cool, or it doesn't fit in. That's what leads to the statistics that we see in the field right now. So, you know, a better app, all those are necessary. The clinical side is required. But if it doesn't translate down to the field, you're seeing the numbers. So that's kind of my perspective, is the life jacket as a PPE is critical, but if the culture top down, bottom up, and on all sides doesn't support the use of those, the results are not good. So I think if we can bridge that gap, which is what I'm trying to fill and what I've seen some success with, it complements what Justin was saying.
All right, thanks, Scott. Ryan?
No, I feel like I can only echo others' thoughts. I do feel like as IPI, as construction manager, we see a slice out of every single trade, and so there is, to everybody's points, there is improvements across trades for specific use cases. And we do see those develop, and I think to that end, as a company, we just try to remain curious. I think we've piloted the rock climbing helmets, but we've also done that a little bit on our own dime, been able to put that in at risk, but then on the back end of that, it's really going back to Justin's comment. It's about making sure that you got budget called out, and we've seen some creative ways of doing that. Instead of trying to bury the cost inside some other line item or some overall safety budget, that they actually call it out as mental health budget, call it out as PPE awareness, call it out as something else, so that the client really has a changed decision at that point to not just deny something that's good because it's just a cost. But also, I don't know, I feel like it comes down to having a discussion with the owner and standing up for what you believe is right, believe is what's needed from your crew.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Steve?
Yeah, I had a contractor shared with us the other day that on these climbing helmets, right? They weren't real popular when they started out. I don't know that they are popular even yet, right? But they had an unfortunate case. The guy was spraying fireproofing, and he had a hose, and they'd been working their way further and further away, and now this hose is stretched out. It's full of fireproofing spray, and the guy's spraying, and he ran over a piece of plywood on the floor with the lift, and it was just enough to turn it over because of the side pull that it put on there. And they found out what saved him was he had on earmuffs, and the earmuffs kept his hard hat on, right? And they kind of started thinking then that, you know, this is probably more where we want to be. So lesson, I think, is to just, you know, not have to have something like that bring you to the conclusion, is to maybe embrace stuff that's coming up new and take off with it because it's the right thing to do, not because an event forced you into it.
Good. All right, let's move on to the next question here. Increased migrant Hispanic workforce. What are contractors and owners doing about it to drive effective change in driving down their BLS, increased levels of injury and fatalities? And let's start with Ryan.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. It's definitely happened all over our jobs. I like how technology can help us out with not just Hispanic workforce, but any sort of work. Yeah, but with any sort of workforce that needs to be brought into the fold. There are people, we're going to go out and we're going to understand what they need, and that takes communication. But one technology that we've been hearing coming down the pipe was really interesting. Tom Gregg he's using this out at Project Kansas. It's a technology that really goes through your orientations, and whatever language you need it translated into, those orientations are translated real time. It's a heavily Japanese workforce on that project, and so it's translating to Japanese. We do a bunch of Korean work, and so it'd be Korean in that, and so it needs to be translated to the workforce that you have. And so, I don't know, I feel like that's helpful. But as we see more strategies to cast a wider net to include more people, I think we will.
Okay. Scott?
Yes, sir. In the field, at least here in Florida, landscapers, fruit pickers, and a lot of the frontline workers are majority Hispanic. And they create their their own cliques, much like rod busters or drywall guys. They all kind of have the groups that they feel more comfortable with. Translation is obviously critical, right? They need to be able to understand the tools that we're providing for them. But I think cultural integration, if you can, whether it's Cinco de Mayo or any of those types of things where you allow them to kind of champion some of the things that they believe in the trailers and potentially around the job sites, maybe some stickers and things that show that engagement. And also creating a champion inside that group that helps to deliver the message from the top and kind of spread it out. So I think obviously cultural recognition and acknowledgement on the site, translatory materials, which are critical, and then kind of more engagement maybe in the meetings. So if you've ever been in a meeting and everybody's been sitting there all day, a lot of times people say, stand up, stretch. Can I get a volunteer to read the next slide? You're trying to engage, so those sound minimal, but if you're doing that with the Hispanic or minority workforces, I think you'll see the leaders kind of draw out as to who kind of like magnetizes towards that, and then I think you've got your champion to kind of start driving some more change. So it's not a magic pill, but I think that you can, again, kind of 360 it to where you'll see them. I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't push a string, right? So if you're pushing all of these things on the workers that I see in the field, a string bunches up, right? So rather than giving them all of this material and pushing what we think is right, let's drop a few data points and pull, right? And let them pull towards the answers. That's what I've seen successful. That's what I'm building on, and thank you.
Okay. Justin?
So we have 2 full-time interpreters, Hispanic speaking, and we keep them busy. And we have others that we can draw in, for project specific. And so the process with the use of the interpreters is still the same. You want to vet out and interview the people that you bring in, just as any employee or craftsperson. And so it's just committing to having people there to help interpret, make sure you got the will and skill of the people, and that's interpreted when you're on the job site, before you start work, but also during the projects or the shutdowns. We use the apps, the interpreter apps, and we work with people from the Pacific Rim, Hispanic people, French Canadians, Finnish people. There's languages, all types of languages you got to deal with. The only ones we haven't figured out yet is the Italians, because there's no app for the hand movement. So.
My wife's half Italian, so I understand that. All right. Steve?
Yeah, we actually sponsored a effort with, we got a grant from, I think it was NIOSH, NC State worked together, I think it was called Enlace, the group. And we did a lot of studies with several of our job sites and really tried to draw in the Hispanic community and really understand how do we interact better with them, right? We got a lot of good feedback from that, and really probably the number one thing that we found was there's just a lack of trust, right? As a general rule, they didn't trust us. And so we've made a really concerted effort on all the job sites. The site manager sits down with a craft safety committee, no supervisors in the room, and they have a really open discussion at a lunch, get feedback from them, and then we go actually act on what we've talked to those folks. And after we started doing that, we started having, to your point, the champion, they started drawing out. You walk through the field, they'd approach you and actually talk to you versus kind of shying away from you. So I think that's something you can really do, and it's very powerful once you start to actually interact with them and gain that trust. They will engage with you, and you'll get a lot more feedback on what they're seeing. I think another thing that has helped us a lot is some of the technology into how we do our scheduling and tracking where the project is, and we've gone to a lot of visual 4D scheduling, so you can actually see where the project's supposed to be next week, 3 weeks, 6 weeks down the line. And for somebody that has that language barrier to be able to communicate in a schedule meeting visually, they understand what you're looking for versus trying to, to translate, going through a Gantt chart on a schedule. I mean, it's terrible even when you know it's your language hard to figure it out. But trying to translate that is almost impossible. So some of that technology is, I think, helping bridge that gap with how we interact with the Hispanic workforce, especially that we deal with.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the next one. Poor mental health and its effects. What are owners and contractors doing about it to drive effective change in their own contracting strategies? We could spend the rest of the morning on this one, but let's start with Scott. Let's start with you this time.
Herb, sorry, could you read it one more time, sir? I'm sorry.
What are owners and contractors doing about to drive effective change in their own contracting strategies when it deals with poor mental health and its effects on the workforce?
From my perspective, I think it's more clinically driven. There's a lot of data, and I think some confusion around deliverables that actually make it down to the field. One thing I've seen is posters, HR videos, those kinds of things, which again are critical, they're necessary, but on the job site at 6 a.m., a lot of these guys and gals, they're not gonna call a hotline, and they're not gonna watch those videos. But what they will respond to is a peer-to-peer, somebody sitting and talking with them that maybe came more from the office side, but also has that ability to, what Steve said, kind of build on trust. I think no different than some of the safety stand-downs, they can, I'll give you an analogy. We all fly on the planes, and when the flight attendants stand up to give you the safety cards, how many of you pull it out and read it? CJ? But why don't we? Because we think we know, we've already seen it. Now, if you look at the flight attendant, what type of energy do they have around it? So, is safety important? Is safety exciting? I think that's where some of the misses are in actually reaching the field and making true change. So I think the theme for today is the change of management, or the management of change. I was telling someone, change is a scary word, right? Change elicits a certain response, but if we can channel the word change into improvement, now you've got an ear, right? So I think what are companies doing? Respectfully, probably some of more of the same, but from what the field would say. And then I also think that, like in my company, we'll do surveys, and we'll have apps, and we'll do things, right? And, from the top down, we want that usage. We want that so we can monitor the statistic of it. But if you're in the field, even though they say the word anonymous, everybody's scared that it's going to go to that IP address, or it's going to be tracked. So there's a massive disconnect between what genuinely is being administered or thoughtful, but when you're down in the field with these guys and gals, that doesn't always come through. So I applaud and appreciate everything that's being created, but probably the adoption level to, if we were being sincere, is a little static and not as easily conveyed.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Justin, you've got a lot to offer on this one.
Yeah, that was heartfelt. That was really good.
Thank you, sir.
So I think we've all had people that we've cared for, loved ones that have been in a situation. Of course, because they're close friends and people we love, we have sympathy and empathy. And it's not a scarlet letter to have to go through these things, and we need to help them through it. it's, we've all been there to a greater or lesser extent. And so the sympathy and empathy is absolute, that it's okay, and recognize it. And that's some of my notes, you know, we have to be sincere when we train our supervision and HR, that they're not just going through the process of, okay, you know, here's a form, we'll get you through the employee assistant program and all of those types of things, but you know, recognizing behaviors that are headed towards that real time, and drive the culture in your organization to be sympathetic and empathetic. And that's from the heartfelt situation. From the business situation, which goes hand in hand with that, you need to recognize it so you can get involved. You have to build the culture and relationships so they know that you're sincere, wanting to help. Otherwise, they're going to do like you said. They're just going to try to hide it, and it's going to get worse. So it's a long-term building a culture. You got to, you know, from admin standpoint, you know, be cognizant of absenteeism. You know, the late shows, and is there a trend going on, and that can help you. Again, the culture's number one, but if you're watching the data, that can help you understand, hey, there might be something going on there. And make sure that you're clear with everybody that it may be additional PTO, FMLA is there available, and paid counseling, and which is what we do. And it doesn't need to be a scarlet letter. Because you're right, it's going to get out, you know, and it's okay. The main thing is, from a culture standpoint, is positivity, and create a team atmosphere like on the job sites, because you get out on the job sites and a bunch of tough construction workers. There's nothing wrong with me, but we've all been there in the stressful projects, have gone 10, 11 months, and you're behind the gun, and you're trying to deal with a lot of things, and it's that positivity within the team to make it okay.
Steve?
Yeah, we started on a lot of our larger projects. We've set up basically an on-site medical facility. Some of these, you know, you're running a small town, some of these projects, right? And not only did we see the benefit from a physical standpoint, we've actually had people that, I think one job site we've had 12 or 13 people that they legitimately saved their life. They had heart attacks from delivery truck drivers. The clients had different things came up. But the other thing we've done with those is we've reached out in the community, and we set up where we've got a dentist that's already, that we can refer people to. There's a general practitioner that we can refer people to. And starting that out from day one builds that culture and trust with the people. You know, you realize these guys are traveling and gals are traveling from wherever, right? And they're already in a stressful situation. They're already doing hard work. You know, my prescription ran out. I don't know how to get my meds. Need to go to the dentist. How do you go? You know, you guys know how hard it is to go find an appointment for anything nowadays, but being able to facilitate that, and it starts that relationship with the people we have on site, and they're a lot more willing to go talk to them because they've already interacted with them and had some good results. So, though it was originally started from a physical standpoint, we've seen a lot of benefits from having that from a mental health standpoint and being able to promote that as well.
Good. Ryan?
No, I really like what you just said about having facilities out on site on these mega projects. We are rolling out facilities that have personal training or physical therapy. I have a nurse's assistant on site, and I do think that creates an environment of having care available. I do think, I don't know, I touched on it earlier, but budgets and internal resources, I think actually ensuring that that's in your pricing model, of showing it, pulling it out and showing it truly to the client, and then really trying to have big shoulders, push hard for it, and don't let go on it. But programs like short-term, long-term disability, I know we heard FMEA earlier, FMA. But I like to just point out something that Scott just did up here. And, you know, Scott just made himself very vulnerable in front of this entire crowd. I'd say the modus operandi to date has been to stuff it down, don't talk about it, and it's changing. But it's also a time when I know that there's people who don't know how to change or really how to get that out there. And so people who've gone through it, have big shoulders for your people, show them how it works and how to get through it. I think that's really a core piece of the message.
That's good stuff. I remember I was a young supervisor, safety supervisor with the DuPont company when I first started my career. And one of the things we did, and it kind of ties into this, mental health and wellness and caring, about the workforce, is we, it was a large facility, 10,000 people working there, and we would, managers and safety professionals would be at the gate in the morning and greeting the workforce. We'd get there like 6 o'clock in the morning, and they'd start coming in at 7 or whatever it might be. But just to shake hands with them, tell them, hey, we're here to support your work safe, that kind of thing. And that gives them a good mindset to start the day. And I've never forgotten that, so it was a good experience. All right, let's move on. Oh, here's a good one. AI and workplace safety. How are owners and contractors going to drive the use of AI to improve workplace safety? Not take the place of workplace safety, but improve upon it. So let's start with Justin. Let's start with you on that one.
Okay, you're calling on the wrong guy here. So AI is artificial intelligence, and you reverse that to me, absolute idiot. So I don't know anything about it. But I know it's good stuff, and I'm going to embrace it, like I said before. A lot of the young people in our company are really getting into it, and I'm trying to embrace it and understand it. I did Fortran programming in college. That's about my extent of programming ability, and I understand kind of what it is, and I'm trying to learn it, but I don't understand it. Just from an old dinosaur standpoint, is my note here is that a caution, optimistic caution, that any advanced tech is just a tool. It's not a replacement for interfacing with fellow employees. And it's a pipe wrench, it's a torque wrench, it's a come along. It's something to help humans do things for humans. And it's not the end all. Technology is not the end all. It's just a tool. And we need to remember that in society as we go along, that it's great, but it's just a tool. In terms of safety, I think it's going to be exciting in the aid of trying to understand things. An example is BBS data and better tech for the job. Behavioral-based safety has been around since the 90s, and it's constantly evolving, the behaviors to be safe. And we use observation data now, but with AI, that may go to the next level to help us understand what our behaviors are when we're working on the job sites. I think that might be an area.
Okay, move to Scott.
Okay, AI. So I think it relates also to what we see in the industry, which there's significant age gaps between the entrance of the workforce to some of the legacy dinosaurs, which I'm probably one of those as well. But I think AI relates to that in the same sense that we try to relate to the younger people that are coming in, right? Because they've got a fresh, new perspective on the business, whereas we've been in it. So there's a complement, but there's also a slight clash, right? And so you've got that standoffness, you know what I mean? And then but you've also got the younger people that will jump right in and want to leverage it. I think to Justin's point, I mean, it's a very important tool, but I think maybe the younger group, it relies on it a little too heavy, and I think the older group is probably a little too scared of it. So ultimately, you all are the experts, right? So AI simply takes the data that you all profess, and if it's used in a way that you guys compile it towards what your goals are, then I think AI is is a huge safety advantage, and not something to be scared of. I don't know if you guys remember the COVID days and all of that kind of stuff, but who used Teams or Zoom before COVID? Right. And nobody knew what that was, right? I mean, you had the background picture, you got the dog, like you didn't know if you were blurred, if you were, I mean, you know, this is a lot stronger tool than that. But I think we're in the early adoption age where it's not something that you can rely on because the data is not always accurate. So I wouldn't give up your perspective and your leadership in fear of AI. I think you guys should grab it and maybe use it as a bridge between the younger generation who's going to probably rely more on it and your all expertise to kind of meet them in the middle.
While you're talking, Scott, fill us in, and again, we appreciate you filling in last minute here for us. We just recruited him yesterday in our sprint team meeting yesterday morning to take Aaron's spot on our panel. But tell us a little bit more about your involvement now with mental health and mental wellness and your experience in suicide and construction, your personal experience and your path forward in that area.
Well, first of all, I couldn't be more honored and humbled to be here. I'm not going to lie to you, I really wasn't familiar with what CURT was before 2 weeks ago, and I've been working on the framework for launching this Scott Evans Speaks, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but it was hard to figure out a name that may translate sort of towards what I'm trying to achieve. But I launched it New Year's Eve night, and the traction has been overwhelming. Lots of back-end messaging and support, and then more and more front-end support. And I'll even tell you, I mean, how blessed I am, and forgive Aaron, I'm sure he would have done a much better job. Hopefully I get to meet that gentleman one day, but who would have thought? 2 weeks ago, I wasn't familiar with CURT. Yesterday, with you fine people, a spot opened up for me to set up here, and hopefully I provide some value. Back to your question, so I'm a suicide survivor. It's called lived experience. I'm learning some of the terms as well. I had two uncles take their lives. My stepfather also took his life. So I don't know if it's genetic, but there's definitely been a precursor of that particular topic. I think I told you earlier, one thing I learned through this was, we all get out of balance at times, right? I remember hearing of a gentleman, I'm from Orlando here, getting some coffee in the morning, getting ready, kind of listening to the news in the background, and I heard that a gentleman had jumped off the interstate into rush hour traffic. And I'm like, wait, what did I hear? And I go back in there to listen, and they had essentially said he was an executive, lived in a really nice area. They had done research. There was no financial issues that they could tell, very well off, well respected in the community and within his job, seemingly beautiful family. I mean, literally nothing that they could track. And for him to make that decision, but in the way that he did, just kind of made me think. Now, flash ahead from that 5 years, and here I'm in a spot that I would have never thought, and anyone that knew me would have never expected. They're like, man, you're well-spoken, you had this, you had that. Like, so that's why over the last 3 years I thought about it. We hear people speaking of mental health, we hear those types of things, but if someone can be the tip of the spear in the sense that not only is it lived experience in the industry that has a dire need for it, but that I pray that it reaches people like yourselves that say, hey, we can do another training, we can do another what have you, but is there something that's genuinely meaningful that's going to stick with someone? And, hopefully that's right, but messages from you and from other people will encourage me, because I'm not going to lie, it's kind of scary, right? Even my own company wants to make sure there's some distinction between them embracing it and my personal initiative. So forgive me for being long-winded, but but what an honor. And I've got a website and all that kind of stuff, not to plug, but if anyone's interested or if I can help provide more details on kind of what that looks like, much appreciation.
Thanks, Scott. We appreciate your sharing that with us, your personal experience. Ryan, on AI, back to AI.
It's tough to follow, man. Hey. No, that's really, really awesome, and I just can't say enough of how much courage it takes to do what you just did. So technology around safety, how we're using AI. I got some notes from our corporate safety manager, director of safety, and we've got some on here for. Oh yeah. We got some use cases here, like use AI to recognize hazards, and doing that through either a real time, whether you're taking a video or you have a video sort of monitoring the job site and looking for those safety issues. We're seeing that technology is still very costly, and our clients are pushing against that right now because we don't have a total package solution. But you can use AI to analyze data. I think that's probably where we're going to see our first big plug. We've got a whole bunch of documentation on projects that lives inside Procore, or lives inside BCD, or some sort of database. Sorry about that. I got ADD too, if you couldn't tell. Bouncing all over the place. But really making those documents usable and searchable and findable. If you're out in the field and you've got a question on your safety policy, well, shoot, that should be as easy as picking up your phone saying heights, what is your classification? What are you looking for? And it should pop out whatever you need to be observing to, monitoring to, et cetera, because those changes from project to project. And then I think there's a good bit of confusion. Maybe it's in our role more, but there's confusion around roles and responsibilities of what your role is out on the project. And so I think where we're trying to push this to is having the contract and proposal files or some of those type documents that lets you know what you're supposed to be doing out there, have that searchable. So if you do have a first-time guy showing up in the field, first time working for IPI, okay, it makes it a little bit less daunting because now I've got roles and responsibilities that I can instantly go back to and see if I'm on the right track or if I'm doing excess or not enough. Yeah, I think that covers all of them. But then also lets you know, okay, I'm approaching a sealed vessel that's sunk underground. Okay, where's my confined space requirements? What's that strategy process look like? And so we definitely see that there's advancements happening right now, but there's a lot of advancements talked about, and it's going to be really interesting to see how those grow and continue to be commercially competitive and continue to, anyways, change what we think is real or capable.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Steve?
Yeah,
Jacob's doing with AI.
we're obviously looking into all those things. But right now, we're seeing that the actual getting something actionable from the data we collect. A tremendous amount of data, and I know you guys all do the same thing, but you're going through thousands and thousands of safety observations, and you get a spreadsheet that says there were 10 for housekeeping, and we had 24 for barricades or whatever, right? And then we go on the next safety walk, and you go look for barricades. But there's a lot more data in that, right? Is it in a certain area? And being able to, it instantly give you a better picture of what you need to go focus on. So that's helping a lot with some of that data. On a broader technology scheme, we're seeing huge advancements in work planning, right? So being able to take what's in the design and tie that into work packages, make sure that engineering documents come out at the right time, sequencing the work, that we're able to get materials there and everybody's on the same page, and having a visual tool to show everybody where we're going. And so we kind of talked about managing a change, and yesterday's topic, if you heard, people said they were, 30% or something confident in the data they had. So, hard to identify a change if you don't even know where you're at, right? And changes come from all different directions. It could be, you instantly think that the owner made a change or a design change came in. Well, there's all those things. But it could be that there's a piece of equipment that's delayed that messes up your sequence of installation. As we, unfortunately investigate a lot of the incidents that happen on the job site, they're typically not the ones that everybody has gotten together and really had a good plan and everybody knows what they're doing. If something happened, there was a change, and they went to plan B and didn't really go through and make sure everybody was on the same page. So, kind of thinking of change more holistically, there's a lot of things that drive change into a project. It's not only just, a design change or a late ad or those kind of things. So the technology is definitely helping with that, giving everybody a better picture of where you are and able to identify those changes when they come.
Okay, good. Is there any particular area that you see your companies using AI, any, thing that pops right out at you where you feel the AI is going to be an advantage, whether it be in the bidding process or tracking the jobs, anything in particular? Ryan?
Sure. Just right out of the gate, we're using an AI software called Smart PM. I'm sure if you have large schedules with thousands of activities in them, you're using something similar. But it's called Smart PM, and it's really trying to give you deeper insights into what your schedule data is telling you, from update to update, how much activities are getting stacked up, and historically sort of what that means. And so that was a quick one right out of the gate to give us some deeper insights into schedules as we're setting up follow-on schedules, trying to rely on that historical data accuracy. It's definitely given us some insights to create more accurate schedules.
Anybody else? Russ?
Yeah, so to the scheduling, which I think is huge, I foresee taking like Microsoft Project and the old scheduling softwares, and those of you been out on the job sites know that we live and breathe by the 3D models now, right? They're good within, 16th, 8th inch, everywhere. And so you can see what your job is. You can see existing, you can see the new builds. And so I foresee with AI, and this is exciting, if it's not if, it's a matter of when, taking the old model of the scheduling, the Gantt charts and your resourcing and all of the things around, whether it's Microsoft Project, Primavera, those types of things, melding it into the 3D, and even going a step further and having your mechanical contractor, you get these young engineers that grew up on Call of Duty, and you actually put the millwrights over here, and then you have the electricians over here, and you put it in there, you actually can see your project going, and AI will be able to do that very easily. And I don't know how many times, with the road's paved with good intentions, right? You show up on the job site, the electricians are wanting the exact same real estate as the mechanical. Well, AI is going to be able to help with that in a few years with scheduling, and you can actually see the whole job and the project going on. That's what I predict.
All right, good. For all of us here, the best AI tool, I think, are all of you and all of our panelists. Just the knowledge and the experience you have in your individual responsibilities, your career, man, that's the biggest AI tool. When I used to do a lot of instructing, I would tell all the craft people, I'm a tool. I'm a resource for you. Here's my email, here's my phone number. You have a question, you have a comment, concern, contact me. I'm not an attorney. I joke with my attorney friends. I don't bill for a phone call. So, yeah, but that's the greatest tool. But that's great. Good stuff. All right, we're like 1 minute ahead of schedule, believe it or not. So it's your turn now. And we have some of our students from the University of Cincinnati that are going to be here with a mic for any of your questions, not to me, but to our great panelists here this morning. So anyone have a question? Jane? Let's start with Jane there.
All this is near and dear to my heart because I feel like we're doing a pretty good job granularly at the site level. The workers are being coached fairly well these days on how to address management of change in and around them. But I feel like organizationally at an industry level, I'm not sure that we're doing as well as we can. So I'm really excited about this topic. I'll let any one of you or maybe all of you address this. how do you ensure your tier trades are building these topics, the changes in PPE and technology, positive mental health, the challenges associated with our Hispanic workforce and the barriers that they see to inclusion and working safely, AI? How are you guys building this into your contracting, that your tier trades are building this into their contracting strategies and you know, cost and the implications to schedule? And then similarly, how are you convincing your clients to pay for it? Or are they not, and are you just adopting these things and taking it on and, what is it, all boats rise with the tide? Is that how you're managing it? But bottom line, how is this, how are these things, how are you supporting the tier trades who are building your jobs, getting this into their project execution plans?
Ryan?
Happy to take a stab at it, but I'm not going to cover all of it. I can guarantee you that. I'm still on the first and last note. And tier trades, it's level. Let me just start. And I think it's really what we try to do with every single client is come to some sort of alignment on the front end. What are we building? How are we doing it? What is important as a program level? Here's what we see as important to our culture, our community. These are the things we build in as budgeted line items in the job. And then from there, it flows down as we buy out the job, as we get our prime GCs put in place. Then we flow that down to them. And honestly, there is probably a little bit of a gap there in ensuring that the GC's flowing it down to the subcontractors or multi-tier trades. But I think there's no chance if you don't have that alignment with the client up front, say very clearly what you want to put as cost into the project and then tailor out for the remainder of the duration.
Anybody else want to answer? Steve?
Yeah, I think we may benefit from working with a lot of these pharmaceutical clients, right? Because they're very, very supportive of that. You know, it's kind of a black eye on them. They're trying to put medicine out to help people and then have people get hurt on their project. So we find that they're very, very supportive of that, and typically we're able to fund that. But you know, the early alignment of getting that information out is important. So you don't want people being surprised when they got on board. But trying to tie it back to the theme of change, you know, we've spent a lot of time and effort trying to become the employer of choice for our contractors and the trade folks, because let's face it, it's hard to get people, right? And having a good place for them to work and being consistent, and they know what to expect when they come on our job sites, and trying to make sure that it's not a different rule because they're at this client's facility versus another client's facility. It's our company standard across the board, and they know what to expect. So I think having that consistency and repetitive constant work helps with those things. It just starts to become part of the culture, and they know what to expect when they come on one of our job sites.
Justin?
So in terms of the craft, it starts with the culture. The old school craft is, you know, they say, I'm missing a finger. It was a badge of honor back then, back in the 70s and 80s. It's no longer that way. And so over time, if you build your company, your staff, your supervision, and your craft to believe that when changes come about, when high-vis vests started becoming really big, no one wanted to wear them, right? Everybody does now. And I was asked by a plant manager one time, he was complaining about no one was wearing their earplugs. And I was just a young engineer and giving him an update, and he had all these managers and VPs in there, and they were all talking about earplugs. Why can't they wear their earplugs? And I'm nobody. I'm in the back of the room. I said, I know why. And I got in trouble a lot back then. And he said, okay, young man, why? And I said, it's easy, steel-toed shoes. He goes, what? Steel-toed shoes. He said, how many people do you got to tell to wear steel-toed shoes when they go to work? He said, nobody. And I said, you made it a habit, made it part of their life. You don't have to tell them. Do the same with earplugs. Do it with everything. And so it's about the culture. Of course, you got to do the training so they understand, like I mentioned, gloves earlier, you know, what kind of gloves. But you got to make it a habit. You got to make it part of the culture. Sometimes make the gear look cool because they want to look cool. Hopefully it's not wear the bill or the hard hat backwards anymore. In terms of the customer, that's a big one right there. And so another one of those innovative things that's happening right now that I'm embracing and I'm liking it, all these new things that come about. The Lifesavers programs, okay? It's a microscopic look and a relook at both conditions and behaviors into a focus. And some companies have 7 or 8, some of them have up to 12 lifesavers. And so if they're doing that, they're allowing you to put it in their contract. They're asking for it. So try to look for the customers that are looking for that, and they expect you to put it in a contract, and they're going to pay for it. So hopefully most of the owners out there will go that direction, and they ask for it instead of us having to ask for it.
Anybody else want to mention that? Talk. Okay. Another question?
I got one more on that.
Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
Just on the change piece, you know, I just feel like change is just such a nasty word, and I think a lot of times it's such a nasty word because you have no idea how much the impact is going to be. And if you have a good definition up front, you can understand that impact a lot sooner, that it may be something very small and not worth getting excited over. And anyways, if you can get a little bit of that mindset that it's not the end of the world to put in a change, then you can also have those valuable conversations with those tiered contractors and have it pull up. I've heard trust so many times on this stage, and trust is key.
All right, thank you. Another question back here.
So you guys have mentioned a lot about some of the great, like how important mental health is and to talk about it on job sites. I'm curious, what training are you providing your employees, and is it the owner providing it? Is it you guys providing it? Like, are you providing any mental health and first aid training or reasonable suspicion training? Because we all know substance abuse can lead to mental health issues. So just curious if you were providing that, the owner was providing that, is that something you're looking into?
Okay. Go ahead, Steve. We'll start with you on that one.
We are, and hearing that question from you made me think that we probably aren't, right, to the extent that we should be. I know we do have different programs, we have some training, we put some resources in place, but you know, I think if we probably treated it like we do with having CPR or first aid responders on the site, probably would go a lot further with that. So thanks for that. That's a good idea. Jane, if you'll help me with that, we can probably facilitate something on that.
Who else? Go ahead, Ryan.
Just something, I know, I imagine this is more of the blanket vanilla, what everybody does. We do have like a marketing campaign every year on Mental Health Awareness Month. We have things that are trying to reach out there and get at least a leg out so that somebody knows that they have it. But I think what we've talked about putting into place is having a mental health champion at each site. I heard that today already. I think that's really a key. It seems like whether it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's mental health, whether it's personal physical health, whether it's any sort of initiative we want to do it as a company, it really gets legs when you have a champion out at site that can really push that message and be that, for lack of better terms, doormat. I don't know, that landing step. Yeah, maybe that's better, landing step for people to sort of come and engage. But that person has to be open and vulnerable and you know, be able to come down and meet them on the same level a lot of times.
I would share with everybody, if you want to write this down, there's a website called 1 Million Lives. If you can go on there, it's open to anybody. It's a mental health check-in program that we use, and we have a campaign about that every year. I think we talked about it at SCORE a few times, but
Yeah.
that's share that with your teams. It's available for anybody. It's free, and you're welcome to use it as you need to.
Yeah, Jacobs created that, and we had a presentation, about 2 years ago, Jane, on that? Great presentation, so 1 million lives, yeah. Anybody else want to comment on that question? Justin?
So yeah, we do, HR has their training, we have our safety training we do every year, the subject matter trainings we do, and we address that. But as I said before, it's about driving the culture of it day-to-day on the job sites with everybody so that they can feel comfortable where they know if they need help, they can come get it. And so it's both. It's a training, but it's also building a culture of trust, like you said, trust. So.
Yeah, you know, 5 years ago, let me just say this about mental health and mental wellness. 5 years ago, we weren't even talking about this topic, this subject. It's always been there. It's been there. It affects every individual in this room. We either have something in our family, someone in our family, or a neighbor, or a coworker, or a friend. So it affects all of us, really. And I'm just so happy and glad that finally, you know, we're dealing with that in the construction industry. I would hear speakers over the past 5 years talking about mental health, but what are we doing about it? And we are finally doing something. I know the Bechtel Corporation, I've spoken to their senior level managers, and they put up some big dollars last year for mental health and wellness in the construction industry, and other companies now are following suit with that. So it's a good thing. So another question. Got to be more questions. We got about 5 minutes to go here. There you go. Brent? Mr. Darnell?
And it's not a question, it's an offer of a resource. Do you guys know mantherapy.org?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's really a good site, and they have evaluations, and it's presented in a kind of a funny kind of format, but it talks about mostly men's mental health, hence the name mantherapy.org. But you should check it out. It's really well done, and it creates this sense of guys talking to guys about this stuff.
Yeah, Cal Byer mentioned that to me, but I haven't had a chance to check it
You
out.
got it. They're hilarious. Some of the videos are just, but the humor breaks down that barrier, and
Sure.
there's real lessons there, and so that's why it's so well done. So check it out.
Thanks for that nugget. Other questions? This side of the room's awful quiet over here. Any questions? All righty. We're going to finish a couple minutes early, but I want to give it up for our panelists and thank them for their participation here this morning. Thank you, gentlemen. Your willingness
Hey, Herb.
to... yes.
I got one thing I think that needs to be brought up,
Yes, sir.
and the management of change, especially in safety, that is huge right now, and that's turnover. That has to be brought up before we end this. We have spent a lot of time, effort, and money to maintain our turnover. To reduce it. Our retention rate is over 90%. I got a phone call a couple of years ago. I have a good friend who's a VP with Georgia Pacific, and he called me. He said, "What's your turnover rate?" And I said, "I don't know. It's our retention rate's above 90%." And he said, "Well, ours is 50%. They get half their employees are new every year." I mean, that is, and that's probably symptomatic of a lot of companies out there. And he said, "Well, how do you keep your people?" Which applies to both, safety, quality, the performance on the job site, everything, to be able to keep folks going. And there's people retiring too. Those types of things you can't help, but having to retrain people on safety and everything every year is monumental. So if you can keep your retention, that's huge. And the changes happening with that has got to be addressed. And so how do we do it? It's pretty simple. You care for the people that are there. They're not a number. They're not someone you hire. And you get involved with them. Try to know not only them, but their families. Bring them in as part of the family. And it's a pretty simple equation. And this is what I told the VP of GP. I said, "How many people do you go out and shake their hand and know their kids' names and their spouses' names?" And, invite them in. Invite them into the team or the family. And they want to be there because they felt needed. What they do has value. And it's all those very fundamental, simple things. And I think we've lost that. And everybody's 2, 3, 5 years, and they go find another job. And it's becoming a large issue. And in terms of especially safety, is having to completely retrain people is tough. So there's ways to do it, but we've got to resolve the turnover issue.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that. We talked about that yesterday too. But even it goes deeper than just your own people. It's how you maintain your sites and craft people. Best I can tell, the industry average is somewhere around 30% on turnover, and we track ours religiously, right? And what's happening with that. But you imagine you got 30% turnover with craft people. How do you maintain that safety culture and what you're trying to build there? It's almost impossible. So once we get them to the site, we don't ever want to let them go. So hugely important. I'm glad you brought that up.
All right, I've got a couple little gifts here for these guys. Here's a camo hat, so you can hide if you need to hide. There you go. And this is from Paradigm HSC. And here's a little flashlight to help you find your way if you get lost. There you go. There you go.
Far too kind.
Giving these things out keeps me from having to ship them back, But,
Thanks, sir.
but let's give it up for our panelists once again. Thank you. And don't forget to go in your app under this presentation and give us your kind thoughts in the survey. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. You can leave your mics right there on the stools.